Hey, coaches. We've already talked about the value of partnering with the clients in a way that gives them space. In order to actively listen, we need to make sure that we aren't talking. And a big part of that is when the client is speaking, as they're beginning to land the plane of their speech, we don't jump right in and interrupt them. We don't assume right when they're done speaking that they're done talking because oftentimes in that pause, there's still some thinking. That's why we talk about don't interrupt the eyes. Watch the eyes, watch the speech, give space, try to give 2, 3, 5 seconds of space before jumping in with that next question. It is really hard, but that is valuable. We want to stop interrupting most of the time. And that's the thing. Sometimes there is value in interrupting well. And that's what we're focusing on with this video. How do we interrupt well? And first off, why would we interrupt? Marker 6.6. The coach allows the client to complete speaking without interrupting unless there is a stated coaching purpose to do so. So right from the beginning, I want to call out, if we ever find ourselves, really when we find ourselves needing to interrupt our client, we must state what we're doing. Hey, clients, I'm just going to interrupt you real quick here. Here's why. And then the question, or then the challenge. The importance of this is that you don't want the relationship of coaching to be damaged by being flippant with these interruptions. An interruption in a coaching session should be a very big change in the normal default approach of spaciousness, because normally we're going to have a lot of space, a lot of silence. It's going to feel like a very nice, well-paced exchange. However, when the coach jumps in, it should feel so rare that it requires that explanation. Why on earth are we stepping on their words? Well, there's a good reason. Now, let's take a look at some of these very specific coach-specific reasons that we could share with our clients to say, hey, this is why I'm interrupting you. These reasons are important, and we do need to interrupt from time to time. So let's take a quick look at them. If the client is stuck in the backstory, they're talking about being prepared for the meeting that's happening on Friday. But in order to talk about being prepared for that meeting, they're talking about every meeting with this person for the past year. While that's nice to have a bit of backstory, the coach is not really needing to understand all of the backstory in order to coach. The client has the backstory. The coach doesn't need all of those details. And when the client is focusing on venting, usually 30 seconds, 60 seconds of the client is just talking about their frustration, venting their anger. For one, as a coach, looking at psychology, we know that just plain venting doesn't actually improve the emotional state. Mostly venting makes us feel worse, and it never moves us forward. So if there's venting happening, we don't want to immediately jump in there, because sometimes that is redirected immediately by the client over to some productive exploration. But we do need to interrupt after 30 seconds, 60 seconds of venting so the client doesn't get stuck in that space. We can move things towards that productive direction. And then finally, when the session is moving significantly away from the client's agenda, and this is as the client is exploring, if that exploration goes a significant length of time, while they are exploring, they're not just going in this deep cycle, that exploration is really a very different exploration than they said they wanted to work on at the beginning. My general rule of thumb is don't interrupt the client when they are exploring, but when they're so far off their chosen path, we want them to be mindful of the path that they are now choosing, whether that is to get back on track or to go down the new path. But in order to do that, sometimes we do need to jump in and say, hey, client, this is great work that you're doing. Before you go any further, though, I do want to highlight something. At the beginning of the session, you wanted this, and now I'm hearing a very different direction of this. What direction do you want to go with the remainder of our time? That is helping the client. When the client is venting and we say we want them to have a more productive exploration that is helping the client. When we see them giving us constant details and constant backstory, and we challenge them with the next question, interrupt and redirect to real exploration, that is helping the client. And in all of these things, we want to make it very clear why our interruption is here and how it is related to the client's agenda and how we are wanting to help the client through this interruption. Because at the end of the session, we don't want them to have to wrestle with the thought of, what did I gain out of venting for 60 minutes, sharing details for 60 minutes? Or why did I go down that path when I really I've got the meeting tomorrow, and we just spent 60 minutes on this other direction that I didn't really want to talk about, but I just got stuck and no one helped me get back on my track. We don't want them to get stuck in those thoughts after our session. And in order to do that, we need to jump in from time to time and interrupt well. Hey, client, before you go on further, thank you for sharing these details. Thank you for being willing to share your feelings, vent your feelings. Thank you for openly exploring here. But I also want to challenge you with blank and share that coach-specific reason that highlights how our interruption is serving them. It's not about us being impatient. It's not about us really getting excited about, oh, I've got the best question in the world to ask now. No, it's all about the client, helping them explore. Thank you for building your skills and helping them explore. Thank you for all that you're doing to learn how to coach more effectively. Thank you for coaching.